violates Section 7 of the Clayton Act, and we went over that yesterday. So that's kind of big, and we got to keep our eye on that. But I had a few people emailing me and say, wait a minute, which one is this? Because some of you may know that the 12 states bringing the lawsuit against Paramount is not the only legal challenge and lawsuit that Paramount is facing. They're facing no less, actually more, but some of them more minor, 5 major legal challenges they're facing right now. And I thought it would be a good idea, because I get so many messages from our viewers about which one's which. Isn't this the same thing? Why can't these be combined? I thought it would be good to just take a couple of minutes here and go over for you guys all the 5 major legal challenges to Paramount, what makes them different from each other, and what the timelines of them are. Okay, so let's take a look at these here quickly. So who is challenging the Paramount Warner Brothers deal? Okay, so the first one we'll start with is the coalition of the 12 state attorney generals. That's, of course, Arizona, Colorado. It's all being led by California and New York. Now, the basis of this one, this is the one that got the restraining order put against them yesterday. This is an antitrust lawsuit being filed under Section 7 of the Clayton Act. It's seeking a permanent injunction to block the deal. They argue that the merger creates an illegal monopoly over movie distribution and basic cable licensing, which will hike prices for everyday consumers. And of course, we went over the judge's ruling yesterday. We talked a lot about this 12 states one. So there's that one. Now, on top of that one, there's a relatively new recent one, which is a group of Paramount shareholders themselves who have launched a lawsuit against Paramount. Now, this is a different lawsuit, but this one was filed in Delaware to halt the merger. The lawsuit accuses Paramount leadership of breaching their fiduciary duties. That means, as the leaders of this company, you have a responsibility to us, ultimately, the shareholders, and our financial well-being. And when you don't do that, that's called breaching your fiduciary responsibility. So they accuse the Paramount shareholders are accusing Paramount leadership of breaching and breaking their responsibility and duties by striking a quote-unquote corrupt backroom deal with the White House to clear federal antitrust blocks in exchange for altering CNN's editorial stance and others. In other words, what this group of Paramount shareholders are saying is that our own people kind of bribed the White House in order to get this deal to get past the Department of Justice. And here's the thing, guys.
You don't say.
The judge who just ruled yesterday said, yeah, this kind of clearly does violate the Clayton Act, is only going to reinforce this Paramount shareholder lawsuit, because it's like, yeah, it does. So why did the Department of Justice let it go through? Maybe because they bribed the White House. I mean, that's what they're alleging. That's what the basis of. It's got to be proven in court. It's going to have its day in court, but that's the basis of the Paramount shareholders lawsuit. So that's the other big challenge that Paramount is going to face. Then there's the third lawsuit, the Writers Guild of America, the WGA. Mm-hmm. They have launched a lawsuit, but here's the big difference. Whereas the lawsuit being brought by the 12 states is accusing of a monopoly, the WGA, their lawsuit is based on the opposite thing called a monopsony, not a monopoly, and a monopsony. Now, what is that? We've talked about it before, but this is this. Challenging the deal on a monopsony grounds, where a single buyer dominates the market for labor. The Writers Union aims to block or heavily restrict the merger to protect thousands of entertainment jobs and prevent compressed wages and scales. Think of it this way, guys. Let's take a kingdom of turnips, okay? A monopoly would be that everybody in the kingdom wants to buy turnips, but only one shop is selling turnips. They have a monopoly. They're the only ones selling it.
And you got to give them a 5-star review.
And you got to give them a 5-star review for them turnips. Mm-hmm. A monopsony is the opposite. A monopsony is, it's a kingdom full of turnip farmers, but there's only one guy in town who buys them. That is a monopsony. So they are being accused of both being a monopoly for content, and they're being accused of becoming a monopsony for people who actually hire talent. So they're getting hit on both ends with this by the states and now also by the Writers Guild. So that's the basis of their lawsuit. Then we got to go across the pond. The United Kingdom also has a public interest investigation going on. They gave notice of this. Now, it's driven by the UK's unique plurality of the media laws. The UK is investigating whether the consolidation of major news networks like CBS and CNN and local broadcasting assets threatens free press and independent journalism within the UK market. So that's something that the UK specifically is looking at. And then there's the broader European Union, which their minister just said, I'm looking at intervening. It's called a phase 2 merger review. Under the EU merger regulation, the Commission is threatening a formal block or heavy structural remedy, zeroing in on how the combined entity would dominate the European premium streaming market, combining Max and Paramount Plus, and squeeze the local European production companies. So we've got the states. We've got the Paramount shareholders. We got the Writers Guild of America. We've got the UK, and we've got the European Union. Oh, and by the way, other unions have not ruled out that they may launch their own lawsuits as well. And there have been a few other bodies, like the trade union of all the movie theaters, now known as Cinema United, which has not ruled out that they may bring a lawsuit as well. So these are all the current things that Paramount is facing. So theoretically speaking, let's say they get by the 12 states. I don't think they will, but let's say they do. They still got to deal with the lawsuit of their own shareholders. Let's say they get by that. They still got to deal with the lawsuit from the Writers Guild. Let's say they get by that. They say, now, granted, I don't think the UK guys and the European Union one are all that problematic, to be honest, with the Paramount deal, because I think at worst, I don't think either of those are going to try to block the deal. I think what they may do is legislate and enforce that they're going to have to divest themselves of some of the things to balance it out, but I still think it'll be fine for them. I think in order of seriousness, it's the 12 states. That's the biggest hurdle. The next, I think, is going to be the Writers Guild, because they're suing on a completely different grounds. And then third will be this Paramount thing. Anyway, Rob, you've seen this laundry list now of growing challenges. You heard about the injunction being given against the deal yesterday. What do you think is the most serious threat out of this list to Paramount and their deal? And how do you see this all shaken out?
Well, maybe the shareholders, because you can't bribe them. And all of this is, I think, I don't know. I mean, it just becomes more and more unsavory the more we learn about it. This whole thing, over-leveraged foreign money, bribing the government. This is no way to start a business. And it's Hollywood after all. I mean, we have our own problems with accounting here. And it just seems to me that there's nothing about this from a business perspective that seems sound to me. The more the onion is unpeeled. I wonder, where's the business of making entertainment? Where's that? And Warner Brothers has certainly been delivering entertainment. I mean, they have many divisions of the studio, their home video division. Well, Warner Archive has been delving into their own back catalog and doing incredible restorations of their old films. Gone with the Wind being the pinnacle of that for the year. And they're still in the business of making all kinds of movies. And I just wonder, what is this merger? Where is the upside? And as more and more lawsuits are added to this slate, I mean, it's pretty clear that is this merger going to happen? And if it isn't, it's going to be very costly. I guess it's costly either way. But
yeah, what I said on the show yesterday, and the more I think about it, the more I'm going to stick with it. If in 2 weeks, when they have that next hearing as to whether or not to make the injunction permanent for the duration of the lawsuit or to end it, if, as we expect, the judge makes it a permanent injunction, it has limited, those types of injunction orders have limited appealability.
Right.
It's not that appealability doesn't exist. It's just that it's more limited. But let's say that goes into force. That means they're looking at a year or longer with this thing being dragged out in the court, that they can't do any business with Warner. They can't finalize the merger. They're going to have to spend another $1.5 to $2 billion in late fees to the Warner Brothers shareholders. And if they lose, then on top of all that, they got to sign another $7 billion check, plus whatever amount of legal bills they incur over the year of a thing. And that's why I think nobody's giving me inside information, but I think at the end of the day, if in 2 weeks on August 3rd, that judge makes this injunction permanent for the duration of the trial, and it doesn't have any sort of successful appeal, I think Paramount pulls out. I think they take a month or two to weigh their options, because remember, they have until the end of October before any penalties start incurring. I think they take a couple of months, weigh their options, see what they can come up with. But I think at that point they just go, you know what? It's better for us right now just to sign a $7 billion check as a breakup fee for Warner Brothers, and then just move on. Maybe move on to Lionsgate, maybe move on to NBC Universal, or maybe move on to just going about the business of running Paramount, but we will see what happens. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? The mounting legal problems for Paramount are enormous. Listen, they still have a lot of power, and they still have a lot riding on this, and there are still many avenues that they can make this thing work out. It's just that some of those ample avenues are disappearing a little bit. What do you think about this whole thing? How do you see it shaking out? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, Blade is the gift that just keeps on giving. Always something to talk about with Blade. None of those things are ever the movie, because we don't have one of those, despite the fact that it's now been 7 years. Yes, 7 years since Kevin Feige stood on a stage and said, look, everybody, two-time Academy Award winner Mahershala Ali is going to be our Blade. And here we are in 2026, not talking about Blade 3. We still haven't got the first Blade movie. And of course, we speculated a lot about like whether this thing was going to be dead and whether or not it was ever going to happen or anything like that. Well, if you're one of those people who kind of believe that the Blade project, at least the one with Mahershala Ali, is dead, this might be the best piece of evidence you've had so far. As in a new interview, Kevin Feige has said he feels like a gigantic loser and failure over not being able to get Mahershala Ali's Blade off the ground. I'm going to see if I can scroll down here. There it is. I'm feeling like a gigantic loser and a failure that we didn't get off the ground with Mahershala. Feige said on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast that he never got it off the ground. Now, I do want to point out that he did not say, I feel like a loser that we never got it off the ground and we never will. Like he didn't say that. But when you say, I feel like a loser and a failure that we didn't get it off the ground, that sounds to me like this is past tense. That sounds to me like they have now thrown in the towel. Again, let me be very clear. Kevin Feige did not say explicitly, it ain't ever happening, folks. But he did say, I feel like a gigantic loser and a failure that we didn't get it off the ground with Mahershala. It sounds like that's done. It sounds like it's done. And if it is done, number one, I'm glad that Feige is actually saying something public about it and not leaving all of us to wonder, although he could be a little bit more specific. But Rob, you know, in the getting close, we're coming close to 20 years that the MCU's been around.
Yep.
The only real failed project they ever had, like Star Wars under Kathleen Kennedy had 5 every 2 months. But the only failed project Marvel really had was the original Ant-Man one that Edgar Wright was going to direct. That's really the only one that was a solid in concrete. This is happening, and then it wasn't. In almost 20 years, that's been the only one.
And that might have even predated the MCU.
It did, and that's why because the MCU had moved on in tone and scope.
Yeah.
And they'd
From
gone
what they
off in
were-
different directions,
Yeah.
and like the movie Edgar Wright wanted to make was no longer fitting with the MCU, and so Edgar Wright and Kevin Feige couldn't come to an agreement, and Edgar Wright walked, and it's all good. I love Edgar Wright, but we ended up getting a great Ant-Man movie anyway, so that's fine. But Rob, this is, as successful as Kevin Feige's been, the more successful you are, the bigger each misstep feels. Like when you're the Toronto Maple Leafs and you lose all the time, losing still hurts. Whatever, we lost. You're used to it. But when you're Kevin Feige and Marvel, like this is like the first real big, I think as a producer, this is the first really big blemish. And again, it happens to all studios. It happens to all studio heads. Like I said, under Kathleen Kennedy, Lucasfilm had like 8 of these a year. But this is the first really big public. The MCU wasn't even really going when the Edgar Wright thing had happened. How big of a deal do you think this is for Kevin Feige? And do you think eventually we do get a Blade movie? And do you feel that the Mahershala Ali one is now officially done, or do you think there's still some wiggle room there?
Well, the lack of success with this project has fascinated me, because we know, Ruth Carter was deep into designing costumes, and we know that it had a period piece element that was set in the 1920s. Marvel graciously allowed Ruth to repurpose some of that stuff and use it for Sinners. And we know that we heard the voice of Mahershala Ali at the end of Eternals.
Yeah.
His voice when Kit was getting the sword or the necro blade or whatever. And so they were deep into production. Obviously there was a script, there was money
Pre-production,
being spent. Pre-production. But the money tap was flowing on this project. I still believe they haven't ever really revisited the Werewolf by Night arena, which is too bad. And kind of Moon Knight would have existed in the same space, perhaps, as Blade. I think that it was more of a universal problem, not the studio, but the Marvel universe, that became an issue. Because, with Blade, it's not just like one guy fighting one vampire. If you looked at the first 3 Blade movies, or the New Line Blade movies, there was a whole secret society of vampires that had existed in the world. And I think that, and he was a daywalker, so he was a hybrid. And that means there's a lot of mythology that they would have to deal with. Like, where has this been for all this time? And I think that, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think that might have ultimately been what torpedoed the whole thing. They could never get a successful script that incorporated the supernatural into the MCU in a way that made a movie about Blade viable. And because otherwise, why not strip it down? You could change it and say that, hey, there's one. The X-Men took on Dracula in an annual once, and it's like in an actual Marvel comic. So depending on what kind of a movie you could make, or what kind of a mythology you wanted to add, you could have made it a little smaller or contained it. I think that's what a period piece would have been interesting, because to see the origins of whatever vampirism that exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I think it's weird because everyone loves vampire movies, and if you look at the template, I think like the first half of the first Blade is really good, and it holds up. Sure. Is it really 90s? Yes. But there's something about the way, the bravado that Wesley Snipes played that character. And the fact that I keep going back to the fact that, John, they did bring Blade back in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
And it's so weird to me that you could even say, like, when they're writing cinema history, the fact that Wesley Snipes' Blade comes back and has his own cool hot toy is amazing. And they couldn't get Mahershala Ali in there? It's kind of weird. It's bizarre to me that they could never make that work.
I've never felt...
Marshall Ali is such a great actor.
Oh, he would have been
So great.
He would have been great in the role. I've never, you and I've always disagreed on this. I've never thought for them the issue is we just can't crack the idea how to make vampires in here. Look, they could make sorceresses and witches and mutants and mummies and aliens and these god aliens that created the universe. They could do and Asgard, and if they could do all that, vampires shouldn't be that big of a stretch. So I mean, clearly there was some kind of hitch that they could never get over. And then they changed, like they went from, it was going to be a period piece. And then Kevin Feige said they changed direction to making it a more modern thing. I mean, so ultimately at the end of the day, Kevin Feige, maybe when he's 70, he'll write a memoir, and maybe in one of the chapters will be, here's what went wrong with Blade. And then we'll know for sure. But it sucks that it looks like we're not going to get the Mahershala Ali version of it. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Kevin Feige is now saying he feels terrible that they were never able to get the Mahershala Blade off the ground. It sounds to me like that means it's a done deal now, but I don't know. Maybe you think there's still some hope for it. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, Ryan Reynolds was at a fan event the other day, and he was taking questions, and turns out that he said, yes, he is indeed working on another Deadpool movie. However, I think people are going to have to put some asterisks beside that. This is what they wrote over at the Hollywood Reporter. It looks like Ryan Reynolds will be putting the Deadpool suit on once again. The actor confirmed during a recent appearance at Fanatics Fest 2026 that another Deadpool movie is coming, which would follow the box office success of 2024's Deadpool and Wolverine. This is what Reynolds said. There's a few really deep cuts that I think are missing behind the movies, and I think there's a few deep cuts missing from some of the comics. There's certainly some stuff that, I love Fabian. I never know how to say Fabian's last name. Nicieza, co-creator of Deadpool, wrote that is incredible. Jerry Duggan, who was a friend, was an incredible comic writer. Reynolds said on stage via video shared on X, there's stuff upcoming. There's eventually, remotely another Deadpool film. It's going to be great. All right. Couple things I think we should kind of mention here. First of all, it makes sense, right? Because the other day, guys, we were talking about Odyssey and its opening weekend. Biggest R-rated drama opening in the history of cinema at 124.5 million. No other R-rated film has ever opened bigger, except for comic book films. And there have been 3. All of them have the word Deadpool in it. Deadpool 1, Deadpool 2, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Those are the only 3 R-rated films that have ever opened larger than the R-rated Odyssey. So when you're talking about one franchise, that an R-rated franchise at that it literally holds the top 3 spots of the biggest opening weekends ever. And the last one, Deadpool and Wolverine, pulled in $1.3+ billion at the box office and was a lifesaver for and Marvel needed that at that time. If you guys remember when that movie came out, Marvel needed it. They needed it badly.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, and I find the Deadpool films ridiculously entertaining, like absolutely ridiculously entertaining. So obviously you want to do this. However, I think I also need to kind of throw in here that this new film is not going to be a straight up Deadpool movie. I've said this before on the show. I will say it again. I have spoken to somebody, and this is very definitive. This isn't like some of the things where I say, I don't really know if I trust this one or that one, but here's what I heard. No, this one is very definitive. I talked to somebody close to the source who basically absolutely reemphasized to me, and this was about 6 months ago, that yes, Reynolds is writing another script, but it is not going to be a Deadpool-led movie. Deadpool will be in it, but he's only going to be a part of an ensemble. And because Ryan Reynolds has said that he's kind of at a place right now with Deadpool that he now feels that Deadpool's place is a little bit further in the background. Just a little bit further in the background and not your foreground main character anymore. So I think what the report really should say is, yes, we're getting another movie with Deadpool, but I don't know that it'll actually be a Deadpool movie. Maybe it'll be X-Force, maybe it'll be, something else. But I think it's safe that we're going to get more Deadpool on the screen, but I don't think it's going to be a de facto Deadpool movie. Like, it's not going to be Deadpool 4. I don't think it's going to be Deadpool and Wolverine 2. I don't think, I think it's probably going to be something, and Deadpool will be a part of it. And again, this is just one of those characters that has worked every time they've put it on screen, so why not do that? Anyway, yeah. Rob, you heard this announcement. Good idea, bad idea to do more with Deadpool, and how do you think this is going to play out?
Well, I mean, box office don't lie. Before they made Deadpool and Wolverine, you had two movies that collectively made $1.5 billion. Yeah. So, and obviously Ryan Reynolds works so well with that character. And I think that, look, making Deadpool a buddy comedy is a genius idea. And I understand they tried to do a little X-Force fun in Deadpool 2, but I think Ryan Reynolds understands. I mean, that guy more than anything is a businessman. Yeah. I've never met him personally. I've had a few interactions with him, and he seemed like really a nice guy. And I've really been impressed with what he's done with Wrexham, with his gin label, with Mint Mobile. And he knows what works, and he knows his strengths, and he knows his weaknesses. And I think if he's writing another Deadpool film, the fact that it is going to have other characters in it, maybe it's an X-Force movie, who knows? But whatever he's doing, he knows. And while I didn't love Deadpool and Wolverine, it was a little too goofy. I kind of wanted to see more of a Days of Future Past with humor, but you still can't deny that. I mean, what a swing. We got Gambit is coming back from that movie. I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy. I think that everybody who wouldn't want another Deadpool movie, like, sign me up, man.
Yeah, I'm all down for this. And whether it's a lead film or whether it's a part of an ensemble, whatever, it's going to be tricky to find an assortment of characters that you can make Deadpool fit in well with. But if anybody can do it, they'll be able to do it.
How about all the characters that Dr. Doom doesn't bring back to Battleworld? I mean, Deadpool starts his own fiefdom on Battleworld, like with all these forgotten characters that he
just
went
the leftovers. Just call it a new version of the leftovers.
I mean, there you go, the leftovers.
I mean, it would be Deadpool and the leftovers. I mean, whatever. I just think that
the Left-Vengers,
with what's going on at the MCU right now, the comedic, the comedy material that they can mine, that Deadpool can mine out of Doomsday and Secret Wars, is limitlessly funny to me, and I don't even know what it is.
All right, guys, question is for you. Ryan Reynolds has once again confirmed on stage at a big fan festival that, yes, Deadpool is coming back to the big screen again. Yes, they're working on it. Although don't expect it to be a Deadpool movie per se. Rather, probably more a movie with Deadpool in it. Whatever you guys think about all this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this, shall we? The other day, the internet got a buzz. Now, because, of course, we know we're going to be getting X-Men soon, and there's a lot of speculation about who's going to be the new Wolverine, who's going to be Charles Xavier, and most importantly to me is who's going to be the new Magneto. And a name got floated around saying Adam Driver. And, we always talk about these rumor mill issues about whether we believe him or not. I mean, he's a good choice. He's a great actor. He's an Academy Award level actor. He's phenomenal, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know how believable it is. Well, you can take that out of it because we just got the most confirming of concrete confirms when Kevin Feige himself has now come out and confirmed that he has indeed talked with Adam Driver for X-Men roles. Kevin Feige said himself, but I love what he wrote. I'm going to scroll down to what he said here. He said this. It's a tradition. He goes, this is what Kevin Feige said. It's no secret we'd like to work with Driver, but it's a tradition to Zoom with him and then he passes. That's a long-lived tradition, says Kevin Feige. Clearly there's interest on Marvel's end, but Kevin Feige is not holding his breath. So again, I just love this quote that Kevin Feige gives. It's no secret that we want to work with Adam Driver, but it's now a tradition to Zoom with him and then he passes. That's a long-lived tradition. Clearly there's interest on Marvel's part. Now, on a more positive note, this goes on to say, Kevin Feige says, on a more positive note in the same article, Feige also shared that Driver couldn't be more cordial. So, I mean, Kevin Feige or Adam Driver keeps taking the calls. He keeps taking the meetings. And Marvel, apparently, this is not the first time they've offered Adam Driver a role. And apparently Adam Driver just keeps passing. What?
Or he's signed to a 3-film deal. We don't know.
Or that.
This is either a smokescreen or it's the truth.
So it totally makes me wonder. So number one, it looks like there's rumors he was going to be Magneto. You can throw that out now, I guess. Then there were some more rumors he might be Mr. Sinister.
Yeah.
I guess we can throw that out the window now too. But I got to admit, it makes me fascinated about the idea of who else has Marvel offered him? And how far back does this tradition go of them offering Adam something and then him declining it?
I don't know.
And it just makes
Fantastic.
You know what? If you guys remember that when in the early days after they announced they were doing Fantastic Four, there was heavy word going around that they wanted Adam Driver to be Mr. Fantastic.
Yep.
I think this comment pretty much confirms that. I think that confirms that that was indeed the case. They were going after him to be Mr. Fantastic. So I think that's one of the ones they've got. I don't know if they looked at him for maybe, I could see Adam Driver maybe being a Kang. Maybe they look at Adam Driver before they looked at Jonathan Majors. He could have been a really good Kang. I mean, they still would have ruined Kang with their writing, but still, I think he could have been a really good Kang. So I don't know, Rob, what do you think about this tradition that Kevin Feige says they have, that they got a new project, they take a call with Adam Driver, offer him something, and he turns it down? What do you think about that? But then what do you think may have been some of the roles over the years that they may have offered him other than Mr. Fantastic that maybe he turned down? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I think Adam Driver is a first-rate actor, and he obviously has a big range. I mean, everything from the Girls TV series to Marriage Story to he was in a movie called Patterson that I really enjoyed. I think he's terrific. So there's no reason why you wouldn't go after him. And he's also he's got a very unique face. And I think villain roles, I mean, sure, could he have played Reed Richards? Sure. Will he play Nathaniel Essex? I don't know, but I would love that because he's perfect to play Mr. Sinister. But, I think about maybe he could have been offered a role in something like The Eternals. I mean, I don't know who, like the Kumail Nanjiani's role or something, although that wasn't a lead and he's a lead actor. In terms of looking back at what he could have been, I mean, I could have seen him as, it's a different take, but Stephen Ewan was going to be the Sentry originally. Maybe they went after him for the Sentry.
He would have been an interesting Sentry. Yeah.
So he would have been so there's a lot of things that I think that he could have, even like Werewolf by Night, but that was a TV show, so they probably didn't go after him for that. But there is a lot of stuff that he could have done. I mean, heck, if Jonathan Majors didn't play Kang, he could have played Kang.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I know. And you brought that up, but I just think he's really versatile. Mm-hmm. But I do see him more as a villain. I mean, I keep seeing him in my own mind's eye. Hell, he could have played Corey Stoll's part in Ant-Man. He could have been Yellow Jacket.
Yellow Jacket.
I mean, who knows?
That would have been interesting. By the way, I just want to throw this in here quick because I mentioned that he's an Academy level thing, and somebody in live chat saying he's never been nominated for an Academy Award. He's been nominated twice for Academy Awards. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in Black Klansman. How good was he in Black Klansman?
So good.
And then
I love that movie.
Oh my God, that movie's so good. And then the very next year, he got nominated for Best Lead Actor in Marriage Story with Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, in that, which again was, I like the movie, I do, but that movie is 98% performance between Scarlett Johansson. I think Scarlett Johansson got nominated for it as well. So yes, he is an absolute Academy level kind of actor. And it would be really interesting to see if Kevin Feige is ever able to actually talk him into joining one of these projects someday. Who knows? We'll have to see. Maybe he'll be the new Tony Stark. I don't know. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Kevin Feige has now confirmed that, yeah, it's a tradition. We offer Adam Driver a role and he turns us down. What roles do you think maybe he's turned down in the past? And what could you see him maybe playing at some point in the future? Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, it feels like just yesterday, guys, that we were talking about the first Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer has dropped. And here we are now on July 21st, and we're talking about the final Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer has now dropped. It's online. And as this headline and our friends over at Slash Film writes, Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer, Peter Parker's the only one who can sense a mysterious villain. So that's part of the trailer that gave us a little bit more scope, a little bit more understanding of the movie itself. I have really enjoyed, particularly the last trailer. The last one where you see Spider-Man fighting Scorpion. By the way, I love the line in this one. You think I'm Scorpion?
Which I was a little confused about.
I am very confused about. So I'm now fascinated to hear what line comes after that. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he says after that. Yeah. But what I loved in the last one is like, okay, he's had enough. And Spider-Man goes, oh, you want Spider-Man? You want Spider-Man? Okay, I'm going to give you Spider-Man. And like literally starts bitch slapping him all over the place, like unto Hulk doing to Loki, just bam, bam, just destroying him. And I love that. And I can't wait to see that. But this little line they put in there, I thought was really, really interesting. Let me tell you about a couple things I loved about this trailer. So I love that line. You think I'm Scorpion? If for no other reason, that fascinates me. Like I'm really interested to finding out what he's going to say. The second thing that I liked, and probably the thing I liked most, was what has been my number one complaint about the MCU over recent years.
The Hulk.
The Hulk. They turned Hulk, the ultimate nuclear option. In all of the MCU, we have a Hulk. I mean, all of that, the whole point of Loki's plan was to plant the beast into their ship. You know, it's just, he is the ultimate nuclear option. And they turned him into a Hawaiian shirt wearing, family barbecue attending, bowl cut idiot son Hulk. And I've liked in the previous thing, seeing him kind of like he's in that apartment kind of hulking out. But the line, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember exactly, no Banner. Only Hulk. I'm like, sploosh. Yes, this is what I've been waiting for. Give us the freaking real Hulk back. That I had a joygasm, had an absolute joygasm when Hulk said that, lost my mind, absolutely loved it. And I cannot wait to see, even if it's only like 5 minutes of the movie. Even if it's only like 5 minutes of the movie, I'll be perfectly happy. I'll go to bed that night sleeping more soundly knowing we actually have the real Hulk back. That to me is glorious. But okay.
Someone's going to be traumatized that night sitting here.
Oh yeah. But you know, it's never a good idea to sit too close to me in a movie I'm looking forward to. So there's that. So I love the Scorpion line. I really love the Hulk line. I also really like that we can now see in the frame when he's talking. What's the name of the organization? It's not Damage Control. Is it Damage Control?
No, it is.
It is Damage Control, right? Yeah. When he's sitting down, because we've seen him before, but we've not seen Spider-Man in the shot. This time you can clearly see Spider-Man's in the shot and he's talking to Spider-Man and giving us a little bit more depth of, you're the only one who can sense it. You are the only one who can fight this. Like, we need you. And so I think that's kind of cool. Getting a little bit more context in it. So yeah, I really liked it. Now, that being said, not my favorite trailer overall. Couple of great moments that I loved. But to me, your final trailer shouldn't be 60% of it is clips from past movies. Like, to me, that's something you put in your first trailer, right? This felt like what should have been Spider-Man's first trailer. You know, you put up the very first trailer for this new Spider-Man movie coming, and you start it with flashback clips to previous movies. An Avengers movie did that before. I think it was Endgame did that before, with flashbacks to previous movies and then about a minute of new stuff. And that's your first trailer. That's what this felt like to me. It felt like a first trailer, not a third trailer. So I'm not, look, I am ludicrously excited for this movie. I've got 2 sets of tickets for next week. I'm so excited for it. I can't wait to watch it. But if we're just talking about the trailer, I have to admit, I feel a little bit let down by this trailer. I thought it could have given us just a little bit better than half of the trailer's flashbacks to other movies. And I don't think that's what you should do with the third trailer. Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to see the trailer. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Where's your enthusiasm level right now for Spider-Man Brand New Day?
I'm a sucker for that nostalgia bait that they did at the beginning of the trailer, you know, giving you a recap of all the films and reminding you why you like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. So that worked for me. But like you said, I think the moment where he talked to MJ, the moment with the Hulk, and then the very end of the trailer was great, you know. But I understand why they put this out. I get it. I don't think it was necessary to even make this trailer. But, you know, I think that from a piece of marketing, making everybody realize, oh, we love these movies. We love Spider-Man. We can't wait to see more. And the interactions, like, John, we've always talked about the fact that we wanted to see in a non-Tony Stark, non-super spider suit that is full of nanotechnology, to see Spider-Man go back to basics. Yes. And I think the thing that made this trailer so enjoyable, it was that going back to basics that made it fun. Even bringing Hulk back to basics, you know, with him going up to Banner, just and I really thought that this, you know, Spider-Man always works best when he is a street level person. I mean, when he gets involved, look, did I like seeing Spider-Man on the outside of a rocket going off into space in Infinity War? I'm not gonna lie, I did, but I don't think that he works as well unless he's the man on the street helping other men and women and people on the street. I think that's when Spider-Man, when he's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man fighting for the boroughs of New York, that's what I love. And that this movie looks to have a lot of that in it. So I can't wait.
Jonathan, you saw the trailer for the first time today. What did you think about it?
Yeah, while I agree, I don't think it needed the flashbacks. Okay, one, I think they did this because it's probably more intended for a TV audience that isn't in our bubble, and it's giving them a refresher of the past 3 Spider-Man movies to coax more people into the theater, which this thing's going to be huge anyway. I think that's kind of what they were doing this for, was for general audiences more so than anything with a flashback. But I agree. I think it wasted a lot of time in the stuff that I saw. It actually got me even more excited for the film. Just the added development with him and MJ and goodness, why can't I think of his friend's name?
Ned.
Ned. Like, and I love that little stinger at the end. This shows Spider-Man's in the vicinity, and he just sees him.
That was a good line.
It was great.
No, really? That was a very Spider-Man moment. That was a very, very Spider-Man moment.
I enjoyed what we got of the actual portion of the trailer. The first half of it, I agree that could have been in the very first trailer. So,
all right, guys. Question is for you. What did you think of the final Spider-Man trailer? I am ludicrously excited for this movie. I can't wait to see it. But I thought they dropped the ball a little bit on this final trailer when they did stuff in it that is stuff you should be doing in a first trailer. But whatever. I've already got my tickets twice. I can't wait. Whatever you guys thought about it, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, we just talked a little bit ago about this interview that Marvel president Kevin Feige, where in an interview he said that, you know, he feels dumb that they were never able to get the Mahershala Ali blade up and running. But there was 2 other comments that he made very quickly that have kind of gotten lost in the shuffle. And I think they're actually really important. There have been guys, you guys are aware, there have been two major, for lack of a better term, rumors going around, beliefs, theories, if you will. Those two theories regarding Avengers are, number one, they're still going to move Doomsday. That Doomsday is going to move. Whether they move it up a little bit or move it back a little bit, that there's just a big belief out there that some people really strongly believe that Doomsday is still going to move. The second one is this, a firmly held theory in certain corners of the internet that Secret Wars is going to be split into two films. Some people maybe even believing that they're going to do it at Comic-Con this week. By the way, tomorrow we're going to talk about all our predictions for what we think Marvel's going to be revealing at their Comic-Con panel on Saturday night.
Blade.
That being said,
Yeah.
Blade. Ladies and gentlemen, Will Smith is Blade. So Kevin Hart is Blade.
Feige's not a loser anymore.
Feige, you've totally redeemed yourself. But, a lot of people believe that at Marvel's panel in Hall H, they're going to announce that Secret Wars Part 1 and Secret Wars Part 2. Well, in that little interview, two very quick questions were asked of Kevin Feige. The first question was, is there a world in which Secret Wars gets split into two films? And Kevin Feige, without hesitation, said, not in this world. So that's as definitive as it gets. That puts it to bed. Secret Wars is not going to be split into two films. Then very quickly, the interviewer followed up with, any chance that we're going to see Doomsday move? He said, no. Just straight up, no. Not moving. So, two of the biggest online theories regarding the upcoming Avengers films. Number one, that Doomsday was going to move, debunked. Completely and authoritatively debunked. The second one, that Secret Wars was going to be split into two, completely and instantly debunked. So that ain't happening. And Rob, I get that. I feel like whenever there's an MCU movie coming out, everybody theorizes that movie's going to be split in two, whatever it is. It could be Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Bet you they split it into two. Everybody thinks every movie's going to be split into two. Anyway, I've always said, this, Rob, because you and I have talked about this. I have always felt, if you're talking about Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, and I look at the original source material, there's an argument to be made that Return of the King could be split into two films, right? Just by looking at the source material,
Sure.
There's a hell of a lot there. But in our discussions, Rob, I've always said the last few months, when I look at the story of Secret Wars, and yes, Marvel always takes liberties and changes it from the original source material. But if you're just looking at the source material, I said, if you actually look at the story of Secret Wars, it really doesn't require 2.5 hour movies to tell that story. I felt like that's a story that can very well and easily be done in a 2.5 to 3 hour movie and be done very well and very effectively. And so I got to tell you, I'm not surprised at all. Number one, I'm not surprised at all that they're not moving Doomsday. I think they have bought fully into the whole Doomsday phenomenon. If they hadn't, I don't think Robert Downey Jr. would have gotten on that stage with Timothée Chalamet and actually wore a Doomsday shirt.
Yeah, no.
So they're all in on that. They want to go with this. But I'm also not surprised at all with Kevin Feige saying, no, we are not splitting Secret Wars into two films. This is the film. I think it makes sense. Anyway, Rob, you heard what Kevin Feige had to say about both of them. Are you surprised by either of them? Does it make sense to you? What do you think about it?
Well, I've been one of those people that was speculating, that both Doomsday and Secret Wars could be expanded and turned into dual films. And it's not like they didn't do that with the Hunger Games, and they did it with Twilight, and they did it with Harry Potter, for the last films.
Yep.
And so there is precedent. There is franchise precedent to do that. I can only imagine that if you were to split Secret Wars with the amount of cast they have, it would become, do you have to pay them twice? I mean, it would be so cost prohibitive. The production of Secret Wars 1 and 2 could be amortized across both films, But if you're making 2 movies, the cast's fees would have to double.
Right.
And that's where you're going to really get killed. And so I think financially it just wouldn't be viable. And like you said, look, there's no reason. And if you want, make the movie 3 hours and 15 minutes, and tell that whole story. It just depends on, you have a lot of characters in these movies now that have to be served. And the whole battle world story, depending on how they're going to do it, is a pretty sprawling epic. I mean, essentially you have the Earth is turned into a larger Westeros with all the different fiefdoms and lands and realms that are controlled by all the different characters. So, but I think it could really, they have to manage that, and they've had a long time to figure out how to do it. Secret Wars was always on the docket, even during the Kang Dynasty era, when they were going to do that. So I think that it doesn't surprise me that Secret Wars isn't being split into 2 movies.
Yeah, and I've seen somebody in the live chat say, I think they should do it. I think they should split it anyway, but that's not serving the story. Like I
Right.
don't see the purpose of unnecessarily throwing in just a ton of filler to stretch it out to justify 2 movies. If the story doesn't call for it, don't do it. Like just
I think
make the movie in service to the story.
I think you also burn up fan goodwill.
Yeah.
Because they sniff that out. They'll watch that and they'll watch the second one and be like, they stretched this out just to like get more money out of us, So
Yeah, and listen, DC in the live chat, great point. Like you're going to end up with the Hobbit films. And what the funny thing is?
Exactly.
If you take the Hobbit films and you boil them down to even 2 films, let alone just 1, I think you have an immensely better viewing experience. Yeah. You cut out like 2 hours of unnecessary stuff. You just really make a great streamlined story, all that kind of stuff. Because I'll tell you what, to this day, I'm a defender of the first Hobbit movie, There and Back. I think, wasn't the first one called There and Back Again? I thought There and Back Again was a lot of fun. I did. But it got progressively more, what's the word I'm looking for? Taxing to watch.
It was too broad. It was
labored.
It was too comedic and too, it was not focused on its story.
Yeah. It was Unexpected Journey. Unexpected Journey.
Yes.
There and Back Again is the name of Bilbo's overall, of course, tome. But yeah, and I think that's what you run the risk of. If you unnecessarily, like if they've got story that justifies 1 movie, like just artificially splitting into 2, you run the risk of having another Hobbit. And I don't think anybody wants that. As far as, again, the Doomsday thing that goes, you know what, guys? I was initially against the idea of Doomsday because I thought with Barbenheimer, you had 2 films that were polar opposites as far as which demographics they were trying to get to buy tickets. You had Barbie and you had Oppenheimer, like 2 totally different audiences. And at first I was resistant to Doomsday because you're going to get a lot of crossover. Like there's a lot of people who are like us that is like, I want to see Dune 3 and I want to see Doomsday.
Yeah.
And so, but you know what? I don't know if it's just the hype of it. I don't know if it's just the party atmosphere of it. I don't know if it's the event of it. I've been won over, and I gotta say I'm kind of looking forward to Doomsday now. That's looking forward.
Be one crowded theater.
Oh yeah, and you know what? I'm gonna find a way to watch 3 movies that day, and by 3 I mean both of those films and one of them twice. I'm gonna figure out a way to do it. It just I have been won over by the Super Bowl feel of the event now, so I have been convinced. I've turned around on my idea of this. Rob, how are you feeling right now? Is Warner Brothers and Marvel rolling the dice here a bit? Do you think this is going to work for them? Do you think they're going to regret doing Doomsday, or are you looking forward to it like me? What do you think?
No, we're going right in. I got my Doomsday tickets for the 17th, first show at the Chinese Theater, and I'm looking forward to that. And it gives me a little bit of leeway to get in and see Dune on that. Maybe I can see them both on 17th and the 18th. But I think that I think it's a lot of fun. it's two big genre movies. It's two big epics, that I think the entire Christmas season, people are going to be going, we're going to have our own Doomsday all for 2 weeks over Christmas. The holiday season, people are going to be doing their own Doomsday thing. And I think it's great for the business. I think it's great for these two movies. And I think it's great for just there's always more fun to be had, John, and there's more fun to be had here. So I think it's going to work out very well. I think people are going to have a good time. I really do.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Kevin Feige himself has now confirmed two things and debunked two very popular online theories. Number one, that Avengers Doomsday is not moving. It is where it is. It's staying where it is, and that's that. The second thing that he kind of debunked was the idea that no, Secret Wars is not going to be split into two. Something I've never really thought they're going to do anyway, but there it is. What do you guys think about that? Right moves for both, wrong moves, whatever you think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. And all right, guys, it is now time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. Just so you know, our comments and super chats have filled up, so I turned them off a while ago. But we do have a bunch of them lined up that we're going to get to. But before we do, we're going to bid good afternoon, of course, to writer, director, producer extraordinaire, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, my friend.
Doomsday abides, and yes, you will.
And, of course, to our technical producer, Jonathan Voico. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
See you guys later.
And now, guys, let's get over to your comments and questions here, shall we? Where are we starting off? Give me a moment here to get this all brought up. And it looks like we are going to be starting with... Where are they? Where are they? I had it, then I lost it. It looks like we're starting with Cutter Hale. And Cutter Hale writes, my birthday is on Friday, so I'm waking up early and driving 2 hours to see The Odyssey a second time in 70mm IMAX at 7:45 a.m. Also scored Doomsday tickets. Yeah, I've got my tickets. I'm all lined up. By the way, speaking of The Odyssey, just in case you thought maybe The Odyssey had a lucky first weekend, the box office, my buddy just sent me this link. The box office reports have just come in. The Odyssey has the biggest Monday so far this year, the biggest Monday box office so far this year, with 18 million made on Monday. That is the biggest box office Monday of the year so far. So congratulations to The Odyssey for that. So it looks like you're still going to be in a packed theater when you go to see it on Friday, and happy early birthday to you, my friend. All right. Let's see. Will Lambert writes, the Steve we saw in the Doomsday trailer is bad, right? No. He's giving evil vibes for sure. I can't be the only one thinking this. Nope, that's not an evil Steve. I don't think I'm spoiling anything by telling. No, that is not an evil Steve. That is Steve. That is Captain America is Steve Rogers. Is Captain America is Steve Rogers. That's him, my friend. That's him. And he's back, baby. He's back. He's the miracle they're hoping for. All right. Raymond Verada writes, though I'm enjoying these the clips from Spider-Man Brand New Day, I hope they don't use all the good jokes. This is the classic Spider-Man repertoire humor. What do you mean I'm blushing? I'm wearing a mask. I mean, here's the thing to me. I think Spider-Man marketing has been guilty of that in the past prior to the John Watts Spider-Man movies. I think they've done that prior to those, prior to Tom Holland becoming Spider-Man. I think they used to be guilty of giving away all the best stuff in the trailers and things like that. But you know what? The last three Spider-Man movies, and I suspect this one, I don't suspect that at all. I don't feel like they've been giving away the best stuff. I don't feel like they've been giving away the best stuff. So I think we're good. I think we're safe. But man, I do have to say, that joke at the end of the new trailer with Ned going, the Spider-Man tracker says he's in the neighborhood. And Spider-Man's like, no, really? Like, I thought that was pretty funny. I thought that was good. All right, let's see here. Let's see. Where are we? Okay, we're at Arun writes, hey, John, great collabs recently. And oh, thank you so much. I've been having a lot of fun with that and really appreciate it. As the show is now remote, what are the chances that you and Harloff may revive the show that you were planning to do a while ago? So I've been, ever since, recently Spectrum finally, after years of crappy service, Spectrum recently upgraded their service in my area, and was able to get on a new plan, and everything's working great, which now allows me to bring in remote people, which means I can have people like Sean Chandler and Chris Parker from 3C and Ryan Airy from Screen, and obviously Christian, Nadia, all that kind of stuff. And it's been great. I've really loved having different people on, and it's been a lot of fun. And I think you guys have been enjoying it. The thing that stopped Christian and I from doing that show we were going to do wasn't internet service. Because when he and I first started talking about doing that, I was living in a different place where I had better internet anyway. So it was never internet service that stopped us from doing that show. It was schedule. Christian works full-time on his stuff. I work full-time on my stuff. And we really thought we might be able to make it work. But as we started going and we started getting some things together, we were just realizing we just don't have the time to do it. We just don't have the time to do it. It's a bit of a miracle that we were able to work it out that he would be available at the time I happen to be doing the John Campea Show, that he's going to be able to join us. And by the way, for the next little while, he's going to be joining us weekly. I'm very excited about that. Christian will be on Mondays. And I love working with Christian. I've always loved working with Christian. I don't know what anniversary we're coming up on, but we've been working together ever since the AMC days, and I just love it every time he and I have a chance to do something together. But yeah, you won't be seeing us revisiting that show, at least not in any time in the near future, because it's not a matter of internet connection. It's a matter of our schedules. We don't have the time to do it, unfortunately. All right, let's see. Next up, where are we at? We're at Amin writes, one of two. I know you probably can't answer this, but if they don't show up, I hope there's a good reason why Doctor Strange and the Marvels aren't in this film, especially since the last time we saw Monica, she was with Beast and Binary, and the last time we saw Strange, he was directly dealing with the incursions. But here's the problem, though, and I've said this ever since the beginning of the MCU. And this goes for the DCU and everything, too. Every time there's a new movie, everybody asks, why didn't Thor come and help? Why didn't Iron Man come and help? Even in Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV series, that last fight was in New York. Why didn't Spider-Man come help? He's in New York. Why didn't Spider-Man come help? And in a DC, well, they're fighting this guy. Why didn't Superman come help? And what I've said for like 15 years about this is, we as audience members just have to not even think about that. Why didn't Superman show up? Because it's not Superman's movie. Why didn't Spider-Man show up? Because it's not Spider-Man's show. Why didn't Thor come and help? I don't know. He's busy eating somewhere. We just have to accept that. And if these shared cinematic universe movies always had to concern themselves with, okay, let's pull out the list here. We got the old MCU character lineup, and every movie we do now, we have to have a moment of the movie where we have to explain why each one of these 55 characters doesn't come to help in this movie. Okay, well, let's see. Let's say that Yelena is in Bolivia. She's in Bolivia helping to fight off wildcats. Okay. Well, now we got to explain where's Ant-Man. Okay, so Ant-Man, so I think we as audience members just have to go, we understand not every character is going to be in every movie. And if Marvel had to take, or DC for that matter, whoever, literally had to spend time every single movie going down why all 55 characters aren't showing up in this movie, then it would be a really long movie. I think the onus becomes on us in these shared cinematic universe movies where we just go, like, unless it's specifically a Guardians of the Galaxy movie and, I don't know, Groot isn't there. Right? Okay, that's different. That's a specific team and one of the team members. But other than that, I think we as audience members just need to go, we just have to accept that not every character is going to be there. Now, that's not me saying that Doctor Strange or the Marvels are or are not in Doomsday. I'm just saying that question in general is one that I think we as audience members just have to get past and not worry about. But that's just me. That's just me. All right. Thanks for the question, Amin. Appreciate it, man. Let's see. Arun writes, whenever you say you are a nobody, all I hear is Jeff Bridges and Iron Man. Tony Stark built this in a cave. You are the GOAT in movie news sphere. Oh, thank you so much for that. For many of us, you built this all on your own. Now, look, listen, let me be clear about something. By the way, thank you, Arun, for the kind words. Appreciate that. When I say I'm a nobody, I'm not undercutting. Listen, I'm very proud of what I've built. I'm very proud of it. I think my resume is really something I can be proud of. You know, from starting a little blog in a basement to getting recognized and have an article made on me in Time Magazine, and then having AMC Theaters reach out to me and ask me to come and start something there, and building what we did at AMC, and then moving over and building what I built over at Collider, and then breaking out of that and going off on my own. And I've been able to build a job for myself where I get to watch and talk about movies, man. I get to just bathe in the things that I love. I work hard. There are sacrifices. It's a pain in the ass sometimes, but I love what I do. And don't get me wrong, I'm not like undermining any of that. I'm very proud of what I've done. I really am. But just because I'm good at my job, and I am good at my job, I'm really good at my job. I'm not perfect, heaven knows that, but I'm really good at my job. But that does not change the fact that on the grand scale of things, I am still very much a nobody, right? I am still very much a nobody. You know, if I come on here and I go, you know, you all know how desperately I love James Gunn. I love James Gunn. You know, one of my critiques of James Gunn, you think when I come on here and I go, man, James Gunn's got to make a decision. Are you the head of the studio or are you directing films? I don't think you can do both. I don't think James Gunn's going, oh my God, John Campea said I should do one or the other. How am I going to sleep? I don't think James Gunn even thinks about it. I've met James Gunn. I've hung out with James Gunn a couple of times. I still don't think if you went up to his face and told him my name, he wouldn't know who the hell you're talking about, because I am a nobody. I am a nobody with a tiny little YouTube channel. I mean, it's big compared to some people's channels, but in the grand scheme of things, my YouTube channel is a tiny little insignificant YouTube channel where me and some great online friends like you guys get to come together every day and talk about some things we love. But in terms of like my importance in the industry and my position, I am a nobody. And I don't take that as an insult on myself. I'm very comfortable with that. I'm very proud of what I've built. I'm very happy with what I've built. I love the community that we have, but I am also a very small YouTube creator who doesn't have any influence, and that's perfectly fine. So that's what I mean by that. I don't mean that as being, you know, depreciating myself. Because I think I'm very good at what I do, and I'm very proud of what I've done over the years. I don't think there's a lot of people who could have done what I've done. But I'm also very aware that I'm still this important in the grand scheme of things. So that's what I mean by that. But again, thank you, Arun, for the kind words, man. I really do appreciate that. All right. Next up, we've got Suthius, who writes, hey, gents, I really, really hope that Steve John Wick Rogers is actually Hydra. Yeah, characters fighting is cool and all, but I'm hoping for twists and turns that will leave us speechless. I think that would be a huge mistake, to be honest with you. That whole Hail Hydra, like this version of Steve Rogers was actually always a secret Hydra agent. You can't just take that storyline and drop it in another movie. Like you can't just take that storyline and just drop it in another movie. That's like doing a Supergirl movie and then taking the age of the Supermen storyline and just dropping it in there. That's a totally different thing. And so yeah, I think that would be very convoluting. Now, that's not to say that the story of the secret Hydra agent Captain America wouldn't be a really good story to do on screen someday. But I don't think that's a story that you just take and drop in a completely different movie. Like so I personally, I see where you're coming from, Suthius, and I think that's a good story, but I don't think this is the movie you just drop that story in. So I'm going to disagree with you on that, but hey, maybe there's a way to make it work. All right, next up, Robert Presser writes, my wife said she'd watch the Lord of the Rings movies with me finally. Nice. She saw the runtime of them and she said, we're going to need a lot of popcorn. Yeah, they're long, man. And we're not even talking about, and by the way, make sure you're showing her the original theatrical version. Like, don't just throw her in the deep end with the extended cuts if she's never seen them before. Go with the theatrical version because those are long enough. But I'll tell you what, man, me and Ann just went to see the Lord of the Rings in concert, and watching, this is the first time in a long time I've got to see the original full movie in a big packed 5,000 seat theater with 5,000 other people. And it's just, oh man, those movies are just some of the best movies ever made, man. Just some of the best movies ever made. Okay. Let's see. Next up. Maxter writes, I can't imagine anyone else delivering the lines of Hawk. Norton is Hawk. As Hawk is Norton. Namaste. I don't know what we're talking about. Do you mean a Hudson Hawk remake? Do you mean Hawk, the character from G.I. Joe? Do you mean, and if you are talking about the Edward Norton as Hawk? Or do you mean another Norton? Or do you mean Hulk? I'm not quite sure what you mean, Maxter. I'm not quite sure what you mean, so I can't really address it. Let's see. Next up, Zach Pastasauce Walters writes, hey, John, I just watched Death Becomes Her. Man, I haven't watched that one in forever for the first time. And dog, what a banger that was. You know what? That's a really good movie. And from a technical perspective, that was a movie that was kind of ahead of its time. They did some things in that movie, like visual effects wise and technically, that was very, very ahead of its time. Very ahead of its time. Oh, that might make more sense. You mean Hawk was the name of his character in The Invite. Got it. Yes, I agree. I have a hard time imagining anybody else other than Edward Norton playing that. That is my second favorite movie of the year. As of right now, my movie of the year list is at number 1, The Odyssey, at number 2, The Invite, at number 3, Project Hail Mary, and at number 4, Obsession. I have to think about what my number 5 is. Anyway, that's my top 4 right now. And yes, he was a big reason why The Invite is just so good. Anyway, glad you had a chance to watch Death Becomes Her, Zach. That's a great one. I haven't watched that one in forever. All right. And next up, Rich Reviews writes, thoughts on Paramount Skydance possibly going to the Supreme Court as the get out of jail free card. They may want a ruling that makes it harder to block mergers. I mean, it's the way the court system works. You can't just skip, you can't just skip right to Supreme Court. You don't just get to stand and go, I want to go to the Supreme Court. There's processes, and there's some things you can bring to the Supreme Court, and there's some things you can't. Now, which one this falls under, I'm not sure. But I have a feeling, is this current Supreme Court clearly one-sided? Yes, it obviously is. That being said, this is also Supreme Court that has made some rulings and some decisions that Trumple Foreskin has really not liked, and yet they do it anyway. And if this, and this is a big if, if the case is almost as cut and dry as this judge seems to think it is, this very well could get appealed to the Supreme Court and still not succeed. Because it sounds like it is pretty cut and dry, but you never know. Like I have my doubts that it'll even get to the Supreme Court, depending on what procedural rules they have to follow. I don't know. Remember, all of my legal education was done in Canada, not in the US, but my understanding of is it might take a little bit to do that. But even if it does get there, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that they get what they want. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. All right, next up. Richard Views also writes, given that you went to law school, what is the biggest misconception about it? The biggest misconception about law, and especially in terms of movies, and I've brought this one up before, and every legal TV show has done this. Almost every legal movie I've seen does this, is this. You know, there's a trial is going on, and then out of nowhere, one of the lawyers goes, like, you think it's just about done, and then out of nowhere, one of the lawyers holds up a piece of paper. Your Honor, I submitted evidence, this smoking gun that proves everything. And the other lawyers are like, whoo, you know, all that kind of stuff. Fiction. Pure, unadulterated fiction. When you are going to court, they have discovery, but also on top of that, you also have to reveal to the other side everything you're going to bring into court and present as evidence. There's no, what? Big surprise moment in court. That hardly ever happens. You actually, leading up to trial, you have to disclose. You have to reveal to the other side, before the trial ever starts, everything you're bringing with you. Withholding, stuff is not allowed. Now, there's some rare exceptions if you literally find out something midway through a trial, but that's so rare. It's so rare. But yeah, that's the big thing to me that always gets me, is like in every law show and every law movie, at some point there's some big revelation in the trial. It's like, yeah, that doesn't happen. That's not how it works. So that's always been the big thing to me. All right. Let's see. Where are we at here? We've got Rick 302 who writes, hey, John, which one are you watching first on Doomsday? Dune 3 or Avengers Doomsday? I have my tickets for both on Thursday opening day. Can't wait. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I know I have my tickets for Dune 3. I know I have my tickets for Doomsday. And I don't know which one comes first. I don't know which one comes first. So it's going to be whichever one I have lined up first. That's what I'm going to see first. Okay. But in a vacuum, if the page was blank, which one would I just choose to go see first? My most anticipated film of the year, Dune 3. I'm ludicrously excited for Doomsday, don't get me wrong, but Dune 3. Dune 3 would be the one I would absolutely be going first. All right. Let's see here. Next up, David Ibarra writes, are you hyped for the Spider-Man Brand New Day post-credit scene? No, I'm never hyped for post-credit scenes. They're always pointless. I mean, don't misunderstand me. I can enjoy them, but they ultimately, post-credit scenes are all unnecessary. They're all unnecessary. But John, this one's going to tie into Doomsday. Yeah, but it's still going to be unnecessary. So when a Marvel movie ends, I stay in my seats. I stay in my seat and wait for the post-credit scene to come up for sure. I can enjoy them and I like them, but am I hyped for a post-credit scene? No. I am hyped for the movie. I'm hyped for the movie. And the post-credit scene being part of the movie, I'm as hyped for it as a part of the movie. But at the end of the day, I think every post-credit scene ever made has been unnecessary. I'm not going to say pointless, but I'll say unnecessary. If I was ever going to say there was one post-credit scene that had more relevance and could come as close to the definition of necessary as ever would be the post-credit scene for the first Iron Man movie, because that literally sets the stage for the MCU. It sets the stage for the MCU. Tony Stark coming home, Nick Fury being in there, introducing the idea of the shared cinematic universe, introducing the whole idea of a broader MCU, and saying the words, I've got something coming together called the Avengers Initiative. Like that's probably the one post-credit scene that is still not necessary, but gets as close to the term as necessary ever. But all other post-credit scenes can be enjoyable, but I don't think necessary. So I don't individually get like stoked for them. You know what I'm saying, David? All right. Next up, Thomas Halvis writes, how long do you think the MCU will last? It's been going for almost 20 years, since 2008, and it seems to have no sign of stopping. It's going to keep going as long as people keep buying tickets to go see it. Listen, Spider-Man Brand New Day is about to come out, and while it's a Sony movie, technically it is in the MCU. That movie's going to shatter all kinds of opening weekend records. It's going to be the biggest opening of the year. That movie's going to make well over $1 billion. We got Avengers coming. It's going to be well over $1 billion. I mean, as long as people keep going to see them, they're going to keep making them, right? They'll stop when they have a long string of failures. But I don't see a long string of failures coming anytime soon. They had a little bit of a slump for a bit, but even in the midst of their slump, they had a Deadpool and Wolverine that made $1.3 billion. So the answer to your question is not anytime soon. Not anytime soon. All right. But I mean, it's got to come at some point, right? But it's, again, not going to be anytime soon. All right, next up. Joel writes, did you notice the symbol on Doom's gauntlet? It's a Norse rune used to invoke invincibility and strike fear into opponents in battle. Just give up. Yeah, I remember. Now, I didn't notice it in the trailer, but I remember others pointing it out in illustrations and images that had been released before, and that one was specifically pointed out. Now, whether or not that's actually going to have any meaning and relevance in the movie, or whether that's just a little wink of the eye done by the designers and whatever to put in there, who knows? We'll wait and see. But I do love the fact that if it's not something that's relevant to the film, that they're paying such close attention to detail like that. I think that's pretty fun. I think that's pretty fun. All right. Let's see. Next up, we are at Real Rider, who writes, hey, John, I hope you're having a good day. I am having a good day so far. Thank you so much. I'm wondering what's stopping you from working as a studio exec. I've no doubt you've had numerous offers. Well, I can tell you I have never had an offer to be a studio exec. I have never had an offer to be a studio exec. I have had on 2 different occasions been offered a job at studios. That has happened. There was one about 2 years ago. Like not that long ago. We were in this house. I was in this studio. That Ann and I actually really had to think about. Because look, for me, especially after the Collider experience, I decided a long time ago, I am never going to work for somebody else. It's just not in my DNA. I don't want to work for anybody else, period. Now, that being said, I guess I can take my headphones off. That being said, 1.5, 2 years ago, and this is the second time I had a studio offer me a job, but about 1.5 to 2 years ago, I got a very intriguing job offer from a studio that not an offer but a studio you're very well familiar with. And it was a very intriguing job. It was a very, very intriguing job. And it was so interesting. Like the first time I got offered a job from a studio, I just was very thankful, but I just kind of brushed it off very quickly. This one was one we actually, and I've never talked about it really too public. I think I might have mentioned it in passing once, so I've never talked publicly about this much. But yeah, Ann and I took a few weeks and really thought about it and really had to consider it because, again, it was a pretty fun idea. And as a nobody kid from Canada, to think, oh my God, like I could be working for blah, blah studios. Like, holy crap. I think ultimately what it came, but it was not a studio executive position, just to be clear. I think ultimately it came down to two things for me. One is I would not be able to do this anymore, right? This I wouldn't be able to do because if I'm on a studio's payroll, I can't do this, right? But the second thing was also, again, it was that one thing I just couldn't get over. Do I want to not be my own boss anymore? And I ultimately decided that's a bridge too far. So yeah, ultimately we decided, Ann and I decided against it, and I have a great relationship with this studio, still do. Not too long ago, I called one of their movies total crap. Like I like them very much, but that doesn't mean when you put out a crappy movie, I ain't still going to call it a crappy movie. But yeah, that was close, but no, I'm not executive. I'm not executive material, I don't think. So that's why. Anyway, thank you for the question, though, man. I appreciate that very much. All right, next up. Noah Khan writes, as a legal professor, the lawsuit is of interest. In contract, the drop dead date is 6/4/27. If there's full PI, it would blow past it. Does that impact your analysis of the likelihood that it falls apart? To me, okay, so it's not even the logistics of those details. To me, it's a more human question. At what point because remember, Oracle's, all right, if we're going to take a step further back and look at an even bigger picture, Oracle is in financial freefall right now. They have lost well over $300 billion in value over the past number of months. That is the source, the main source of the Ellison family money. So that's taken a big hit. You're talking about a combined debt of $110 billion if this deal goes through. That is billions of dollars a year in interest. And all that is if nothing else goes wrong. If nothing else goes wrong, their best case scenario. You know what? Just because I want to actually put a number to it, let me open up my calculator here. Okay, so $111 billion is $5.5 billion a year. That's $458 million a month just in interest. $458 million a month just in interest they're going to have to pay on that $110 billion debt. And again, all this is if everything goes perfectly and if nothing goes wrong. $458 million a month in interest that they're going to have to pay on a $110 billion debt. As the problems mount up, I think from a human perspective, rather than a logistical one, you have to wonder at what point do the Ellisons go, we made a real run at this, but this is becoming more than what we bargained for. And do they then just drop, cut bait, and get out? They save themselves $80 billion. They'll have to cut a $7 billion check as a breakup, but they'll avoid the extra ticking clock fees that they'd have to pay Warner Brothers. They'd avoid the enormous legal bills for a 1 to 2 year legal process. Not to mention the other 4 legal challenges that they're facing from the Paramount shareholders, from the UK, from the European Union, from the Writers Guild of America, and others that could be coming, which will also be expensive. So to me, it's not a logistical question. to me, the question is a human question. At what point do you sit back, evaluate your scenario, and say, look, it was already going to be pretty heavy, even if everything went perfectly, and a lot of things aren't going right. And at what point do we just cut bait and say, we got to cut our losses and let's move on? And that's what I think is going to be the determining factor here. Is if, that's a big if the Ellisons just go, look, at this point, it's too much. Let's just cut our losses. Let's focus on making Paramount great. Let's maybe take a look at acquiring Lionsgate. Let's maybe take a look at acquiring NBC Universal, but we got to move on from this WB thing. I'm not saying that's what will happen. I'm just saying I think those are the questions that are going to be in their minds. But anyway, that's just me. Great question, Noah. Thanks for throwing that in, man. All right. Next up is Austin Hines, who writes, sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Austin. And Austin writes, hey, John, not sure if you've heard of Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed. I am very aware of it. I know it's Tatiana Maslany's show, and I see it pop up in the top charts all the time, and I'm very curious to watch it. I don't know anything about it, though. It sounds like softcore porn, but I'm sure it's not, but it's totally got my attention. Anyway, not sure if you've heard of Maximum Pleasure Guaranteed on Apple, starring one of my current favorites, Tatiana Maslany, good Canadian girl, by the way. Great murder mystery show, and now one of my favorites, just below, I don't know what Amit is, highly recommend. Thank you for the recommendation. Again, I've been seeing it pop up. I love Tatiana Maslany. She's an Emmy Award-winning actress, good Canadian kid, like I said. Despite the fact that I hated She-Hulk, I thought she was great in She-Hulk. She's also, by the way, guys, did you know she had a 2-episode arc in Parks and Recreation? True. She had a 2-episode arc as a love interest to Tom Haverford, and she was great in it. Anyway, so love her, and it's on my radar. I do want to check it out because I've heard nothing but really good things about it, but I don't really know much about it. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. Thank you, Austin, for keeping that on my radar, dude. I really appreciate that, man. And thank you for supporting us on that level. That's very generous of you, dude. All right. Let's see. Next up, George Mann writes, hey, John, do you have a favorite Doctor Who? Don't watch Doctor Who. If you've watched the show, if you haven't, what the hell, man? Yeah, I'm not interested in Doctor Who. I used to watch Doctor Who when I was a kid. What was the name of the guy? It was David something. He was the Doctor who had the big hat, like the big rimmed hat, and had the scarf and stuff like that. Well, maybe it wasn't David, but I can't remember that Doctor Who's name. Anyway, when I was a kid, I watched it, but I've tried to pick up on it. Tom Baker. Thank you. That's who it was. Thank you for that, Rich. I tried watching again because, like, I remember Anne and I went to one of her cousin's weddings, and they're really into Doctor Who. They had like a minor Doctor Who theme to their wedding. Like there was little mini TARDISes on the tables and stuff. But, I should give it another shot. A lot of my viewers really like Doctor Who. I should give it another shot. And I tried watching 1 or 2 of the episodes, and I'm just like, it's all I'll say is it's just not for me. That's all. I'm not saying anything bad about it at all. It just wasn't for me. So yeah, I don't really watch Doctor Who, unfortunately. All right. Next up, we've got Corey, who writes, I'm watching The Odyssey on 70mm in Indianapolis. This is my first 70mm film. So is the format worth the hype? Do you like films showing more than digital? I'm making my first short film. Wish me luck. Well, good luck with that. That's amazing. I think everybody should try to make their own, try their hand at making a film. Look, I love The Odyssey. It's my favorite film of the year so far. I wasn't all that blown away by the 70mm projection of it. Nothing wrong with it at all. Quite good. But, my wife, because I was busy with meetings, she went to go see The Odyssey again the other night without me. And she went to go see it in the digital AMC Dolby Prime, right? And she said it was much better. So I don't know. I can only speak for myself, right? And I love IMAX. Do not get me wrong. I love IMAX. I'm just saying the 70mm presentation of The Odyssey didn't seem all that special to me. Honestly, seem all that special to me. So it's a perfectly good viewing experience. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I think the next couple of times I go see the movie, it'll be in digital. All right. Next up. Laser Michael says, do you think Steve is a variant in Doomsday or no? No. I think the trailers make that pretty clear, so I'm not spoiling anything, but no. All right, next up. Red Toys writes, hey, John, if the trailer we got for Doomsday was from CinemaCon, will we get a new trailer for San Diego Comic-Con, and will they release it to the public? I don't think so. Like, here's the thing. I understand the logic of releasing the trailer on the day the tickets go on sale. That makes sense. I still thought they would have held off until Comic-Con, but they didn't. Could they release a second trailer at Comic-Con just 5 days after they release the first trailer? They could. I don't see how that makes much sense, though. I mean, they could. I have no insider information. I'm just looking at it as a film fan. It doesn't seem to make much sense to me to release a second trailer like 5 or 6 days after you release the first one. Now, do I believe they'll release something from that? Maybe a little clip or a little scene or a little nugget? Yes. And then do I think they'll release that to the world? Yes. But do I think we're getting another trailer? I don't think so. Not at Comic-Con. But I could be wrong. Again, this is just me guessing. But again, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me that you'd release a second trailer 5 or 6 days later. So, but we'll find out, man. We'll find out. Let's see. Next up, we got Dalton, who writes, with the latest cast additions to Man of Tomorrow, could we be getting a Captain America Civil War-ish ensemble film? I don't think so. I mean, listen, every movie has a ton of characters. Right? Every movie has a ton of characters. It's just that in most movies, you don't recognize the name of the characters. Right? So, I mean, for example, I'm just going to look this up here. Give me 1 second, because I'm going to try to pick a random movie. Let me see what has been the biggest movies of the year so far. Okay. So we've had movies like, well, there's a great example right there. Devil Wears Prada 2. Okay. So I'm going to look up Devil Wears Prada 2, and I'm going to open it up, and I want you to notice something here. I'm going to bring this up on the screen. So if we look at the Devil Wears Prada 2 and we get down to the cast, look at this cast list. Look at it. Look at it. Oh my God. Look, there's more. 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 Look at this. Oh my God. That movie's so overcrowded and so look at this, still going. It's still going. Okay, there, it finally ended. The point is that every movie you and I watch, with the exception of The Invite, which literally only had 4 people in the movie, but like other than that, every movie you and I watch has tons of characters in it. Actually, if I go and look up Obsession, I think even Obsession, if you look at the character list, if I can get rid of that. Yeah, let's go over to Obsession. Okay, so here's Obsession. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Look at that. Just keeps going. Now, granted, some characters say background. That's great. A lot of background characters. But even if you just go beyond background, look at that. There's a ton of characters. There's really no difference. Now, this is still, though, Nikki and Bear's movie, right? Like, it's still Indy and Michael Johnston's movie. Even though there are a ton of other characters, they are the 2 main characters. Just because it's a comic book movie and some of the supporting characters being added are names we recognize, that doesn't make it any different than Devil Wears Prada. It doesn't make it any different than Obsession. Don't expect, because at the end of the day, how many lines did Nathan Fillion actually have in Superman? 10, 11, 12? I mean, I didn't count, but he really doesn't have that big of a presence. I mean, he has a big impact on the movie, but it isn't that big of a presence in the movie, really. So no, I think at the end of the day, this is still a Superman movie. Also, obviously, Lex. I think it's primarily their movie. I think a lot of these extra characters being added are just going to be more supporting characters. That's the way I see it anyway, Dalton. Good question, though, man. All right. Robert writes, do you prefer James lead DC or do you want someone else? I 100% prefer James Gunn to lead DC. 100%. But I need him leading DC. The problem I see right now is that James Gunn isn't leading DC. He's directing movies. It's not what the head of the studio is supposed to be doing. And again, I actually thought it was a good idea for James Gunn to direct the first DC movie. Set the tone, set the direction, set the pace, set the bar. But after that, I really only think he should be directing a movie every 4 or 5 years. I want James Gunn running DC, but the problem is, and I say this as a massive James Gunn fan, and as a guy who has advocated for James Gunn and will continue to defend James Gunn because the dude is awesome. But as a fan, I need him running DC. And I'm sorry, you cannot run DC if you need to spend 2 years developing and shooting and post-production a single individual movie. We're heading into 2027 when we have one DC film coming out. 4 or 5 years after they announced Gods and Monsters, we got one film coming out next year. Don't tell me that has nothing to do with the fact that the head of the studio, obviously Peter Safran is there too, but that the head of the studio spending 4 out of the 5 years in development of individual films because he's directing them has not had an impact on the overall productivity and direction. You want to know why we don't have a fucking Batman script yet? Because James Gunn isn't in the office. And I say this as somebody who desperately loves James Gunn and I want him to succeed and I defend him and I will be on his bandwagon till he retires. I will be on the James Gunn bandwagon till he retires. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I believe in this thing he is making a mistake. He needs to act. If you're going to be the head of the studio, be the head of the studio. Be the damn head of the studio. You can't be the head of the studio and then be off on set all day, focusing all of your attention on one movie. You can't do it. And again, I say this as somebody who desperately loves James Gunn. I desperately love James Gunn. Anyway, yes, he should be running the studio. It should be him. But he needs to get his ass back in the studio and actually do the job. Because he's not doing the job. He's off being a director that he's so good at. But he accepted the job to be the head of the studio. Get your ass back in the office and do your freaking job. A job that I think only you can really do. So anyway, that's my thought on that. All right. Aaron writes, is there a scenario where Netflix comes in with a life raft for Paramount and is willing to help with a portion of the $7 billion breakup cost? Nope. Because if you're Netflix, why would you do that? You don't have to do that. I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe Netflix stepped away from the deal because Ted Sarandos totally believes this thing is going to fail. And he might be right and he might be wrong. But I think Ted Sarandos looks at the Paramount WB merger and completely believes it's going to fall apart. And that's why they stepped away. Because I think he believes that at some point he's going to be able to step in and buy up Warner Brothers and maybe even buy Paramount too. Probably not Paramount, but he's going to be able to step back in and buy up Warner Brothers for pennies on the dollar of what he was going to spend. Again, I have no proof of that. This is just me as a fan speculating, but I'm looking at the tea leaves. So, no, I don't think Ted Sarandos believes he has to offer Paramount help to pay off the $7 billion breakup fee. I think he knows he doesn't have to do that. I think he believes, and he might be right and he might be wrong, but I think he believes that if he just waits long enough, he's going to get everything he wants without having to pay an extra dollar. And that would be pretty damn brilliant. But again, I could be right. I could be wrong. I'm just speculating, of course. All right. Seconds from Disaster writes, it was really smart not to reveal Robert Downey Jr. in the Doomsday trailer. A lot of people didn't even know the movie was coming before seeing the trailer. You know, it's odd to say that, but I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. As much as everybody hypes Avengers and blah, blah, I think you're right in the sense that there's probably a lot of average film going fans who probably this trailer came out and this is the first they've heard of it. Because remember, 95% of film goers do not make shows like mine or watch shows like mine, right? Or are corners of the internet. And I think there are a lot of people that this was totally brand new. Now they're going to hear that Robert Downey Jr. is playing Doom for sure. They will. But I think you're right. I think there's probably a lot of people who saw that had no idea it was coming. All right. Next up, we've got Try Getting a Reservation writes. To burn the walls of Troy was to burn the world entire. Chills down my spine. I did not expect that hauntingly beautiful arc for Zendaya's Athena. Listen, I won't go into what it is just for people who haven't seen it yet. But yeah. That scene, and for those of you who've seen The Odyssey, you know what we're talking about. But that scene near the end with Zendaya and Athena shook me. It emotionally shook me. And I thought it was and it gave a whole new perspective to everything we had seen in the movie before that. Yeah, I agree with you so much. I agree with you so much that was really, really haunting. All right. Let's see here. Zach Taylor writes, deaf girl from Godzilla X Kong died in a car crash in Texas. Yeah. I think you pronounce her last name Hoddle. It's Kaylee Hoddle. I did not make it a topic on my show today. I didn't want to make it a topic on my show today. I mean, she had a limited career. But since you bring it up, she had a limited career. Two movies. I read this news this morning. I have never met this girl. I've only ever seen her in 2 movies. I have no emotional attachment to this girl. And I nearly cried. First of all, as the little girl in the Kong Godzilla movies, she's wonderful. She was wonderful in that. She gave heart to Godzilla, to Kong. She gave heart to Kong. And that relationship between Kong and her, I think is the best thing other than the outlandish action in the films. But I thought that was always the best part of those movies. And for those of you who didn't hear, she died in a car crash. She wasn't driving the car. She died in a car crash today. 18 years old. And like I said, before this morning, I didn't even know the girl's name. I just know I liked the young girl who was in the Kong Godzilla movies, but I didn't even know her name. I have no emotional attachment. Only ever seen her in 2 movies. I know nothing about her. And yet I don't know if it's a tragedy about a kid that young with so much of the world still in front of them. But yeah, I got emotional this morning. And I thought about whether to talk about it on the show. And I just decided I didn't want to. I didn't want to talk about it. And so I let it go. But yes, it like a massive tragedy, and was really, really gut punched to hear about that. It's so, again, such a tragedy. All right. Next up, we've got Jay Barnes, who writes, is it a bit odd that Man of Tomorrow and Minecraft 2 only come out 2 weeks apart, considering they're both Warner Brothers films, or am I overthinking this? Honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Number one, most people who want to see Man of Tomorrow will see it in the first 2 weeks. people who are waiting to see it in its third or fourth week, if they go to see Minecraft 2, they're still going to go see Man of Tomorrow. Like they were never going to rush out. It was never high on their priority list anyway. So I really don't like, they might move, but I honestly don't think I don't think it's that odd, to be honest with you. And again, there's some overlap in demographic, absolutely, but I don't think a massive overlap in demographic. So I think that'll be okay. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. Big thank you to the thousands of you guys who are here in the live chat. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out. It's been great. Like, first of all, having the information you guys give us and watching the conversations. It's been wonderful. And of course, a big thank you to you guys who sent in the super chats. Number one, because you gave us really interesting things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. Don't forget to come on back and join us again tomorrow. Me, Rob, and Jonathan will be here. Oh, I can't remember either. I think Sean Chandler's joining us tomorrow too. Yeah, so it'll be me, Jonathan, Rob, and Sean Chandler tomorrow. I always love having Sean on. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for me for now. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.